Homecoming, the Florida Gators play the Vanderbilt Commodores, and we'll talk about what the Florida Gators need to do to win that game here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy Friday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. Also, if you have not yet signed up for Florida Victorious, save 20% off your first month using promo code LOCKED to do so. And also check the description down below for Subtext, which is a texting service. It's 2 weeks free, then $5 per month after that. But it's where we get one-on-one conversation with me. We're going to have exclusive content over there. So check out the link below for Subtext. But now we're talking about what the Florida Gators have to do in order to beat the Vanderbilt Commodores tomorrow, which is that's not a fun thing to have to talk about, right? Where it's like, oh, what do you have to do to beat Vanderbilt? But that's where we are right now. Florida's played 5 games this year. They haven't shown up for 3 of them. They showed up for McNeese State, they showed up for Tennessee, and they haven't showed up for any of the other ones. I think for me, the biggest thing you have to do offensively is find a rhythm, any kind of rhythm. You probably don't have Trevor Etienne tomorrow. He was listed as questionable on the depth chart with an upper body injury. Hasn't really been fully healthy from what I'm hearing. Hasn't really been fully healthy since the Tennessee game. So it's been a few weeks, which he went off in that game. But you probably don't have Trevor Etienne. That means you have Montrell Johnson and true freshman Trayon Webb and Eddie Battle behind them, I guess. We'll see if he gets much run, if any. But you don't have Trevor Etienne, who's been your most dynamic running back, one of your most dynamic playmakers. You likely have Eugene Wilson, the third back. He's listed as back. He is not listed on the injury report. So assuming he's fully good to go, you at least have someone there to, look, you can't replace what you're losing with Trevor Etienne, but you at least have somebody who can help kind of supplement that, because you're losing your most consistent runner and your most explosive runner. Montrell Johnson, he looked better last week than he looked in prior weeks. I don't know if he was also banged up and then he was kind of getting back into the groove or what it was, but he looked better last week than other weeks in a week where not many people on offense, especially, or actually even on the offense or defense, looked good. So without Trevor Etienne, you've got Montrell Johnson. And it's interesting because your run game hasn't been going no matter how much you have tried to run. And now you're dealing without your most dynamic running back and your most explosive running back and your best running back. So it's time for Montrell Johnson to kind of step up and show us who he was last year and show us that he's still that guy that he was last year, because last year he was the better running back of the two. This year, by a pretty large margin, he hasn't been. Again, Eugene Wilson, the third, coming back opens things up for your offense. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but you have that motion man back, that first half against Tennessee, which was your best half of football all season. Eugene Wilson III was a huge part of that opening drive with his usage in motion and getting the ball to him in space. Florida has to go back to that, especially with, again, probably not having Trevor Etienne. You have to figure out a new extension of the run game there. And I think that has to be just quick game. The quick pass is just, like I said yesterday, grip it and rip it for Graham Mertz. Just catch it and get the ball to the flat. Get the ball on a slant. Just something to get the ball in the hands of a playmaker moving downfield. And like when I talk about getting into a rhythm here, I don't mean, every single drive has to go for a long drive. Every first down opportunity, you have to convert. Whether it's 1st and 10, 2nd and 10, 3rd and 2, doesn't matter. You have to convert. I don't mean that. What I do mean is that far too often this year, at least from my side of things, it's felt like Florida's had a scoring drive where they pick up some first downs and score a touchdown, pick up some first downs and kick a field goal, or like a 3 and out immediately. There's been very few just, they're sustaining their drive a little bit. That they're moving downfield. They might have to punt, but they're moving downfield. We've not seen that from Florida. It's been first down, touchdown or field goal, or punt immediately. You've got to get some kind of rhythm as an offense. And every week it feels like the offense is regressing when what's happening is the offense, what they're doing is stagnating. But every defense just knows what Florida's going to do because they've become so predictable, which again, we'll talk about later. But you've got to figure something out to get into some kind of rhythm. Run, count, hell, run a reverse, run an end around. I don't give a damn. But you've got to get into a rhythm. You're probably going to have to throw the ball in this game just because your offensive line hasn't been good as it is. And now you don't have Trevor Etienne, who's been able to make something out of nothing. You've got, a true freshman in Trayon Webb as your running back too. Montrell Johnson can't play every down, especially because, like I said, he looked better last week, but most of the season he hasn't looked like himself. So I don't know if he's dealing with an injury or something, but you're not looking great right now as far as your offensive production standpoint. So you've got to figure that out. And I don't even know how to say this other than wake the hell up. That's kind of all I can think about just to say is just you got to wake the hell up and get something going. Because even last week against Kentucky, when it did feel like the offense was finally getting something going, there were constant I almost said a word I can't say, constant screw-ups, whether it's like, we got to a 4th and 1 situation, we're going to go for this in the Wildcat, and then we get the false start, which again was a bad call by the referees, but you shouldn't have been in that position, but you were moving a little bit. And every time there's something that happens, penalties can't, I don't know what it is with this team that they are freaking obsessed with penalties. I don't know why. They love nothing more than committing penalties in crucial moments. It's kind of impressive. If we're just being sincere here, it's kind of impressive how many penalties this team gets on offense specifically. So far this season, they've had 22 penalties. 1 was declined, but they've had 22 penalties. 4 on Kingsley Aguakin, who, by the way, has only played in 2 games, probably not playing tomorrow. 3 on Damian George, who's played in all 5 games. 2 on Austin Barber, who's played in all 5 games, but probably isn't going to play tomorrow. And then a bunch of guys that have 1. But this is just something where you got to get into a rhythm. You have to get something going offensively and just move the ball. For the love of God. Like it is hard for me to sit here and go, don't worry, it'll get better. Find a rhythm. This is your game where you have to get right. Because Vanderbilt's defense has not been good. So if there's ever an even decent chance of getting right, this has to be the game where you do that. We are about to talk about the defense and coaching really needing to get better. But before we do that, I will remind you that today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. And these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. And you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. And if you're looking for someone to hire, you add your job, add the purple hashtag that you're hiring, like that, add that little frame to your LinkedIn profile, spread the word that, hey, you're hiring, whether that's a game changer coordinator or an offensive coordinator or whatever it might be. With simple tools like screening questions, makes it easier for you to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. And guys, You ever have trouble performing offensively, specifically? You ever out with your partner and feel like you just can't get the job done? Does it get worse when there's lots of people around, like 90,000 people in the stadium? Yeah. Is it especially bad with guacamole? You know what I'm talking about, fellas. I'm talking about weak chips. The ones that can't handle a single scoop of guac. Well, here at Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips, we understand the pain of trying to dip with weak tortilla chips. Nobody ever wants to go soft on the guac. And unlike other chips, Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips are literally built to dip. They're made the old fashioned way where you cut actual tortillas. Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips are both sturdy and delicious. Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips are now available at Publix in sea salt, lime, and nacho flavors. You can find them in the deli section with the dips. Head on over to Publix, grab a bag of Zach's Mighty, and scoop that guac like the stud that you are. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. And like, if you want to join the LinkedIn, the Locked On Gators Discord below, links down there in the description. But I think for Florida defense, the key here is to win early downs. Vanderbilt has not been an efficient or effective passing attack. So that's what I mean when I say you have to win early downs, is force them into those long situations. This is going to be, I want to say, a bit of a punt fest because I don't think either of these teams are really. It's going to be gritty. We'll say that it's going to be gritty. All right, Vanderbilt's going to run those pull plays that Kentucky ran and had an incredible amount of success against, because Vanderbilt did it last year and it worked. And that's how they kind of just kicked the crap out of Florida on the field. They were like, hey, we're gonna break you down here and we're gonna beat the crap out of you. And that's what they did. You have to make the stop there early and force them into passing situations, obvious passing situations. You look at the defense last week, it was, I think, for me, the biggest part that failed in stopping that any of those pull plays, we'll say, was linebacker play. I think that it was linebacker play, and I think that part of it was both edges. You gotta. I understand that you're kind of in contain there, but both edges, you've got to just hammer down. I understand you might be in contain, but when you see it happening, you have to hammer down. I know there was the play where Princely just like held his shoulder and let the tackle hit him. I don't think either edge was contained properly or was defended properly. When you realize, oh, he has the ball, he's running it, you've got to get your hands in him and try to close that gap a little bit, because there's going to be an offensive lineman pulling through, and that's where linebackers have to step up and make the play. That's where your safety has to step up and make the play and come downhill. I'm very confident that we're going to see Vanderbilt break out the pull plays early in this game. I keep bringing this back to 2021 when LSU ran that long trap and it was 287 rushing yards or 297 rushing yards for Tyrion Davis-Price. And then Florida played Georgia, and the first play from scrimmage for Georgia's offense, they ran that same play. And I think either picked up a first down or almost picked up a first down. But I would fully expect, not that Vanderbilt's coaching staff is as talented as Georgia's, but I would fully expect Vanderbilt to go, they kind of got the crap kicked out of them on these plays that we already do. Shall we? And then they're just going to run that early. And they're going to make sure that, because there's two outcomes there. One, the Florida Gators did their homework and adapted and are ready to stop it. Or two, they aren't ready to stop it and you're just going to run it multiple times throughout the game because you know it's going to work more often than not. So I fully expect them to run it early because it can dictate the entire flow of the game for Vanderbilt. You need to make the stop early there, and just every first or second down, you need to keep them in obvious passing situation. Turnovers have not come for this Florida Gators defense. They've got, one pick, and it was Devin Moore, if I'm not mistaken. It was Devin Moore or Jalen Kimber, one of the eights. As in Devin Moore's 28, Jalen Kimber's 8. Pretty sure it was one of the 8s. And even then, it was when Joe Milton was getting pressured and just threw it up into the air. And it was more like a punt than a true interception. We haven't had a single play this season where we as Florida Gators fans have seen just a corner or a safety or a linebacker or anyone jump and pick the ball off. We had Jason Marshall Jr. almost do it last week after he got beat for a first down. We saw him almost do it, but he didn't finish the job there. Like this is something where you force Vanderbilt's rough passing attack into these long situations, and you're giving yourself a chance to create those turnovers. You look at their passing attack, AJ Swann's probably coming back. He's got 7 picks this year. 7 picks. He's got 7 picks. He's got 11 turnover-worthy plays. Ken Seals has just 1 pick, 3 turnover-worthy plays. Okay, this is a Vanderbilt offense that puts the ball in harm's way. Like, AJ Swann also has 16 big-time throws. That means he's putting the ball in a spot that's like, oh, okay, tight window spot, usually downfield. Like, he's putting the ball in there. Big-time throw, these are PFF numbers. According to PFF, a big-time throw is a pass with excellent ball location and timing, generally thrown further downfield and or into a tight window. Turnover-worthy plays, a pass that has a high percentage of being intercepted, or a poor job of taking care of the ball, fumbling, holding the ball loose while you're running, which I think that hasn't been an issue at all for AJ Swann, really. It's been the passes. He's fully confident in his passing ability, and he's fully confident he can make tight window throws. Make him make those throws. Make him. Like force him into these 3rd and longs where it's like, hey, you're either throwing the ball short where we expect our guys to come up and make a tackle and force a punt, or you're throwing the ball past the sticks and we've got to have people ready to make a play here. Like you win the early downs, you force uncomfortable long 3rd downs, and that's where you force turnovers. I will say this, I'm not one that really harps on turnovers a ton. I understand that, the team that forces more turnovers usually wins the game. Yeah, I get that. Like the team with more picks usually wins. Team with more forced fumbles usually wins the game. I understand that logic. I also understand the team that keeps the opponent out of the end zone more by any way usually wins the game. So, yeah, I understand turnovers are huge and they're very helpful. You make stops here, force punts, and figure things out that way if you need to. Like, this could just be a team where, hey, we don't have many ball hawks. They're not super aggressive. What I truly don't give a damn. Make some stops. Like that's what I need from you, because the offense isn't going to play great. I know they're not going to light up the scoreboard. Make some stops. It's going to be an ugly football game. You need to do your job. Win early downs, force 3rd and longs, get the offense the ball back, and let them try to make plays. Give them opportunities to make plays and get into a rhythm, because you've got a really tough schedule coming up for the next few weeks. And frankly, if the offense can't get back on track, you're going to get your ass kicked. And there's just no other way to put that. I don't know another way to put it other than that. So excuse my French, but I don't know another way to put it. Just being completely honest. We're about to talk about what the coaching staff has to do, because the coaches do need to improve as well. This has been a bad season just in terms of product all season, really. But before we do that, today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. It's $200 in bonus bets, whether you win or lose. And if you're thinking about joining FanDuel, there's really no better time to get in on the action. I know they wanted us to say that months ago. Now is when it's actually no better time, because you've got the NFL is in swing enough where you have a feel for how teams are going to play, and it's easier to make money. Same thing for college. Playoffs, MLB playoffs are here. And playoff baseball is fantastic to bet on. NBA is getting started again. NBA is a fun thing to bet on. Now is truly the best time to get into it. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season right. And remember that FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. And like I mentioned earlier, for the Florida Gators, your coaching staff, you can't be as predictable as you love being. Just, I don't know how to. They have to love being predictable. Billy Napier, offensive play calling, like you can't sit and run every first down. I don't care if your first down call is a screen, a swing, a slant. I don't give a damn. You can't sit here and run inside or outside zone every first down. Can't happen. We've seen it happen, honestly, a kind of nauseating amount of times where it's like, all right, first down, split zone, which everyone knows, or most people know probably by this point. Split zone is my favorite blocking. Split zone read is my favorite run concept, but split zone is what we're going to see because we're not seeing much of the read options with Graham Mertz. But split zone is my favorite run that they run there. You also have GT counter, but they don't run that frequently. But you can't just go, okay, first down, we're running split zone. That's what we're doing. And like split zone is fine. You look at the NFL, it works at multiple levels. The Seahawks use split zone, I think, more than any other team, and their running game is explosive. And they don't have an awesome offensive line, but they've got a relative better offensive line than the Florida Gators have. And by relative, I mean Seahawks offensive line isn't great according to other NFL players, and Florida's offensive line isn't great according to other college players. But the Seahawks utilize it. Florida, you can't sit here and run on first down. You can't just go, okay, first down, split zone time. No. You can do it with counter or something or get a little bit more predictable. But even then, you can't run every first down. Come out throwing the ball. I don't care if it's a hitch rogue. I don't care if it's a hitch, a swing, a screen, a slant. I don't care. Just get the ball out in space as soon as you can, and it's going to be an extension of your run game. I know we're obsessed with the run game here. Make it an extension of your run game. And you have Eugene Wilson, the third back. I mentioned this on, I think it was Wednesday. I mentioned this, I think even yesterday, and I'm going to mention it again today. You have Eugene Wilson, the third back. You have to give the ball to the jet motion man, who's going to be Eugene Wilson, the third. You have to give the ball to the jet motion man. It's something that you use more pre-snap motion than anybody else. Wide zone is a fine offensive system to work. The issue is when it's all predictable. When you have that jet motion man, if you give him the ball just a couple of times, just a couple, specifically on the first drive, if you do it once or twice, for the rest of the game, they have to respect that you might do it again. That's a huge, because you cause a little bit of hesitation there. With Eugene Wilson out, you've had Ricky Pearsall running that jet motion, and you've barely given him the ball on it. Now you've got a tendency of, oh, they're not going to give the ball to the jet man. They're not going to do it. Well, guess what? I don't know if you know this, but as far as football coaching goes, tendencies are meant to be broken. You set those tendencies so that people are like, oh, when they come out and do this, this is the play that they're running. When they come out and they have that jet motion man, he's running to the flat and he's sitting there. And he's not a real threat in the passing. That's why I say make him run a wheel. Just a little tendency breaker. Because tendency breakers create explosive plays too off of that. So have that little jet sweep. Have him run that. I don't get. Last week, you showed a look where you had Trevor Etienne in the Wildcat and you had Ricky Pearsall going in motion as the jet man. And I didn't hate that play call. Like I don't know what was going to happen, if it was going to be Ricky gets the ball or Trevor takes the ball, or if Trevor has some kind of inverted veer read that he has to make. I don't know what it is. But I will tell you that I was interested to see it. And if we see it against Vanderbilt with Montrell Johnson and Eugene Wilson III running the ball, why not? Just it's a little tendency breaker there. It's like, oh, the jet motion man now could be even more of a threat here. Something. Just stop being so damn redundant with what you're going to do here. Defenses just know. Like Kentucky just knew everything Florida was going to do. It's not that they were filming practices and stealing signs. It's just what Florida's been putting on tape has been redundant. And we could talk about the talent-wise. Yes, the offensive line's not good. Yes, the receivers aren't good separators. You can work around these things. You can't work around all of them, but you can work around some of them. You can work around a little bit of the offensive line not being great. Work quick game. You still have a passing attack. You can open up your rushing attack. You've got to just stop being so predictable with everything. And I think that's probably, again, I feel like every day I'm like, oh, that's been the biggest failure so far. That's one of the biggest failures, is that you've just been so predictable so far. And if you don't adjust, it's going to be a miserable second half of the year. I do think the Florida Gators win this one. I think it's going to be low scoring. I already bet the under 52.5. But man, it's going to be a rough one. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free to listen to the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow after the game for the postcast like we always do, win, lose, or draw. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33, and I'll see you all tomorrow.